everybody, participants in the dear and polluted and only spaceship, the same which last time in this we saw last time in our screen has a turn in its imaginary axis, and we still have events and very impactful events regarding our bigger country. So something that I don't want to improvise, I want to be exact, and I want to read it to you. We open with a summary of all the speeches in the 73rd meeting of the UN. For the Chinese Chancellor, Russian Chancellor, Prime Minister San Vicente and Grenadines, San Salvador President, and President and Honduran President Hernandez. This means that the bigger Earth, Latin America and Caribbean is very well represented in this arena, which is the one that so far is the best in order to talk and have some issues and debates to avoid catastrophes. Let us see what is happening, because today they are taking place from the big arena, which we had to cover from the United States. We have to be. Today we see is that the rules and international rules and regulations and the multilateral mechanisms are under attack, and with the destabilizing factors, we must still continue with our multilateralism, or unilateralism must not prevail. We must uphold this structure, and also to have those are questions that are the big questions that affect the impact of all the futures of all the countries, and all the questions that all the countries must answer and must find solutions. Chinese answer is very clear. China has always different international order and defended multilateralism. Even though we were outside of UN for 22 years, we have never failed to uphold our support of multilateralism. China has always defended its commitment through the negotiation process when they returned to GAP and after their adherence to OMC, and negotiations that took place over 15 years and concluded with a prize. China has fulfilled its premise and has rejoined the economical system. When the international system had a failure, economical system had a crisis, China collaborated with other countries to surmount these difficult times. Since then, China has contributed with 30% of the global growth, and has carried out the part that has taken and has helped recuperate from the near challenges. And we will continue defending on multilateralism. What about the Iranian nuclear side? This is the right time to apply the lessons. This is a multilateral agreement based on the process from the Security Council of the United Nations, and it has to do with if the agreement is not applicable, the regime of a nuclear proliferation regime, and also has to do, and also peace and stability in the region and the world will be rocked. This is a situation where everybody is losing. China supports the parts respect and apply the plan. Based on this, we can study the possibility to find the platform of dialogue that is transparent to facilitate the solution from each of the sides and on the concerns from each of the sides through dialogue and referendums. Palestine cannot be left on the side for more than 7 decades. There hasn't been justice and peace in the world. What we need, what the international community needs, are not initiatives, but we need determinations and measures so that they can, so that both states can meet their needs. We need another round of peace talks so we can have mediation. So China will carry out their support, and they will give Palestine their human aid, and China will adopt. It will be another step to open the market, the Chinese market. The countries can come and participate actively in the event. The initiative is proposed by the president, and it's a resource that China offers the world. It's an important platform for international cooperation, and it wants to offer benefits and through consultancy and cooperation. The initiative is transparent and open, and is based on international norms and laws, and wants to achieve a green development and sustainable development, and to find complementarity between countries that participate. From here until September, plus more than 130 countries and organizations have agreed about the cooperation regarding China. And next year we will celebrate the second forum for international cooperation, and we greet everybody who wants to participate in this event. China is the biggest development country that is in the world, and we now will work with other countries, and we have worked very hard because it's very strategic for our diplomacy, and it's determined by China, how China is defined, and our values that we hold. The revisionism from the system is based. This is the Dean Chancellor Lavrov. Regarding the conflict in the Middle East and with Iran, the responsibilities in the framework of and also the environment agreement, and also the legal framework in international arena. So this is what our colleagues want to substitute with a supposed order based on norms that are created independently of what is politically reasonable and is hypocritical. This accusation of interference from some states is done at the same time that they try to take down democratically elected governments. They try to bring some states and there's some unions, military unions, with some peoples against while others are punished because of their democratic elections. It is clear that these aggressions in these situations internationally goes hand in hand with the need to privatize its structure and giving them intergovernmental organs which can be used for manipulation. Most has to do with international collaboration, confrontation, and lack of predictability and the ability to have conflicts spontaneously. This reflects in the attitudes from this organization. A very small group of from different states have selfish acts, and the international panorama plays a high price, and has to, instead of solidifying, strengthening security, we have unilateral restrictions without the agreement from the Security Council. Analog measures are affecting several states, and they're not effective. And what we can see in the blockade against Cuba, which has lasted more than 50 years, where that the international community condemns the United States. However, this does not teach us, and whoever wants to carry out condemnations without a legal framework is reducing to some colleagues from the West are accusing others, saying with expressions with highly improbable or unprobable declarations. For example, what happened with Yugoslavia in 1999, Iraq in 2003, Libya in 2011, where they used excuses to justify interventions that ended in wars. These methods we can see also in Syria, the territory there on April 14, which was a victim of attacks with missiles, especially for a time when international inspectors were supposed to arrive to those areas. It's unacceptable that terrorists and their supporters would use chemical weapons. This conflict has lasted 7 years, and this has taken us for the destruction of the country and the upcoming of a terrorist rain. And this is only to respond to the needs of the Syrian state, and also to strengthen diplomacy, and also to have this support, to have Russia, Iran, and Turkey to hold. We have to give solutions politically and we have now the creation of the Constitutional Committee in Geneva, and also the program, the agenda of the day to recuperate the destroyed infrastructure, so they can have so they can bring back the millions of people that have to migrate. Which this is a prospect that the UN must help with, and their decisions should be respected. And what is it's very serious what is happening there, but we must also remember Palestine. We must go back to the discussions so that the situation improves. And I want to warn about unilateral states, and in order to bring back the negotiations based on the resolutions of the UN and Arab initiatives. So we're working for this, especially through the collaboration of the Arab League and the first Minister of Grenadines, and then to the Russian Chancellor, so that the parts can stimulate the practical means and the meetings between Pyongyang that took place in Pyongyang and the Security Councils. We will continue working so that we go with the process to develop a good mechanism for the area. The declaration of a Korean Peninsula is one of the objectives of the international state, so that to stop the proliferation of mass weapons of mass destruction, and we have several obstacles in this for and the objective to turn the zone to an area free of weapons of mass destruction. We have Ralph Gonzalez as the Prime Minister of Saint Vincent and Grenadines. In our economical order, financial economical crisis worldwide, which had devastating effects, had their origins in the meeting rooms of greedy banks, and their effects were felt throughout the world at a speed which was made evident the weakness of the international platform, which was not sufficiently regulated, and there's the negative impact in the crisis, and has a great impact on the countries who had less responsibility in the genesis and the crisis. Unfortunately, the lessons from those economical catastrophe has been an object of distortion and manipulation, which has had very complicated effects. The financial architecture has raised again once more. Silently, there has been cosmetical changes or superficial changes without real effects. And at the time, the political and economical horizon has suffered radical changes. Economical hardships has led most nations to look inward, rejecting the more noble aspects of global corporations. Greedy demagogues dressed with populist mouths have sprung to exploit economical hardships to fan the flames of hatred and division and isolation. And in all the corners of the world, the loud noise of intolerance has its roots from the economical crisis and its repercussions. We have sacrificed solidarity in an altar of political opportunism, which shows what is the vision, how visionary Kofi said was when he said when the economical conditions are hard, the people tend to be less generous. They tend to protect themselves. At that time, they don't care or care very little about solidarity. We have gone further away from integration and cooperation elements and an attitude to look for consensus that will not only, which is not only the sense that it was prevalent before the crisis, but it's also an attitude which is really necessary to solve the world problems. In a global village, connected technologically, more and more educated, and also, and at the same time, smaller, the attempt to give back the genius of multilateralism, globalization to their respective battles. It's a crazy. Walls will never replace bridges. Isolation can never replace cooperation. And the tight fist will never replace hands outstretched. United Nations are not are not without systemic lacks and weaknesses, and so this antithesis without principles are on the rise, implies that we must see those weaknesses urgently. However, after 7 decades, the United Nations is still the only institution that has the capacity and authority that would allow global cooperation that will make us, that will ennoble us. Well, Madam President, the issue of this debate, which you have led, shows the relevance of the United Nations and the world leadership and the responsibility that we share, and it centers the attention on the renewed commitment that comes with the Charter and the no sovereignty, no non-interference, non-intervention, peace and security internationally, respect for international law, and collective cooperation to resolve the world's issues, specifically now in in harsher times. Madam President, President of Salvador's another issue is migration. Our country welcomes the adoption of the Global Pact for Safe Migration, ordered and regular migration, as well as the Pact regarding refugees, as clear examples of protagonism of the United Nations in search of the new consensus worldwide. We must assume migration from a human rights perspective to face the challenges that it brings. This year, many of the families that are coming from the North Triangle in Central America have seen a very hard and difficult situation when they were separated, which has created psychological and emotional damages, irreparable damages to children and adolescents. We believe they must be respected, their rights must be respected, the rights of families must be respected in spite of their migration status. Once again, I reiterate, Salvador appeals to the U.S. authority for those minors that have reached the borders with their families in the last years, and San Salvador has worked seriously to create better living conditions through promotion and investments and human capital, security, prevention of violence, work against the narco-trafficking and human trafficking networks, these actions have diminished our 60% in migration flows from Salvadorians to the United States. Salvador rejects the criminalization of the migrants because the experience has shown that they contribute to the economical development and social and cultural development of the societies. A clear example is our citizens that goes under and those protected by Project Araca, which have given progress to that nation, to the DACA program that have given that gives support to this nation, so that now appeal the United States to guarantee the legal instruments that give us migration stability and permanent residence to those who have who have joined TTPS and DACA. And El Salvador, one of the nations in the UN and who respects international law, recognizes the importance of multilateralism to face the challenges such as and to bring peace and a more fair economical distribution, migration, and climate change. In this context, we insist on the need of a constructive dialogue, consultation, and cooperation, and strengthening of integration mechanisms and the regional alliances. Facing the conflicts that the world is going through, we must strengthen dialogue and political solutions. With this approach, on June 30th, on the meeting from the presidents in SIC in Santo Domingo, we gave our pronunciation regarding Nicaragua. We called on dialogue and means to preserve peace and respecting constitution and legal framework, so that the international panorama advances firmly to end this, and end unilateral measures would be bringing unjust and unfair economical blockades, for example, like the blockade from the United States against Cuba. It must end because it generates incalculable damages to the Cuban people. It must also stop the economical offense against Venezuela, economical blockade against Venezuela, and they cannot get goods and services, and affects the population. We pronounce for respect for self-sovereignty of the Venezuelan people, and we reject any international external interference and military intervention. We know there's a high President of Honduras,
Juan Orlando
Hernández. If we are the promoters of the sustainable development, we must not remain deaf to this issue that generates extreme poverty. For example, a coffee cup in this city, here in New York, and as an average, can cost around $5. 500 cents of a dollar. You know how much do our producers receive for coffee producers receive? Do you know how much they get? Our small producers receive in my country after working under sun and rain, collecting by hand each of these coffee beans. I will tell you, they don't get 2 cents of a dollar for each coffee cup, and it costs $5. 500 cents versus maybe 2 cents. Is this fair? I know that those who have clapped, they recognize it's an injustice. And this cannot be so. We cannot close our eyes, nor remain deaf. or allow that our conscience, something stirs and that we may wake up, because this is the reason to be here. This is our reason to be here. General Secretary, we have discussed for a long while the objectives of sustainable development. I ask you, is this coherent to stop listening to the crisis that millions of small producers, small coffee producers, only in my country, we are talking about 900,000. In America, more than 14 million of small producers in the world, 26 million of families, and other millions that live indirectly from this product. We must act today, while the United Nations take the necessary actions, because I leave this podium convinced that you will take the necessary actions. I call on all the presidents from the presidents of producers, coffee producers, and countries in the world to organize ourselves, because we can see that nobody watches over the interests of the small producer in the world.
Muy interesante.
Very interesting and very
Irán niega la acusación de
Iran
Netanyahu
denies
de
the
tener un
accusation from Netanyahu to
almacenamiento
have an secret atomic storage. The representative of Iran denied the accusations by the Prime Minister from Israel of an atomic warehouse.
This is to distract the attentions from his regime's inherent cruelty.
Las falacias en su declaración confirman su tendencia patológica a contar mentiras
These false
monstruosas y
accusations
distorsionar la
come from a
realidad.
pathological liar that distorts reality to take away the attention from the cruelty and the brutality from his regime against Palestine.
Discovered new nuclear facilities in Iran.
Exhibimos algunas
We
fotografías de
exhibit
Google
some
Street View
photographs from
hoy en
Google
Showman
Street View here
israelí
in
afirmó que descubrió nuevas
affirms that
instalaciones
they have
nucleares en
discovered
Irán.
nuclear
Esta es
stations
otra
in Iran.
historia
This is
falsa.
another
No es
fake, false
sorprendente, ya que
accusation.
mentir está
It's
en su
not
propio
surprising,
ADN.
since lying
En lugar de
in
tales fabricaciones,
DNA. Instead of
debería de
these
amenazar a
fabrications,
Irán
you
con
should
aniquilación
threaten.
nuclear.
You should threaten Iran with nuclear annihilation.
La historia
The story
es que las acusaciones
is that the accusations
contra
against
siguen en
Netanyahu
pie.
are still
Los
standing.
palestinos dicen que 6 personas murieron
Palestinians
cuando las
have
tropas
died today
israelíes
when
dispararon
Israeli
contra la
troops
protesta en Gaza.
opened fire
Un
against the
típico
protests in
viernes.
Gaza. It's a typical Friday.
Personas lloran sobre los
People
cuerpos de
cry
palestinos
over the dead
asesinados durante
bodies
la
of
protesta en la
Palestinians
frontera de Gaza
murdered
con
in
Israel.
protests in Gaza.
Soldados israelíes dispararon gas
Israeli
a las
soldiers
personas que protestaban.
threw gas
Y solo querían recoger los
against people. They
cadáveres.
just wanted to collect
Drones
the
arrojando
corpses.
gas sobre
Drones
manifestantes
throwing
también fueron
gas
utilizados.
bombs against people.
Y las personas
And
tratando de
they were
llevarlos a la
just trying
ambulancia
to
y
take
algún
them to
centro
the ambulance
asistencial.
and to some emergency units.
Soldados israelíes mataron a
Israeli
disparos a
soldiers
6 palestinos,
killed
incluidos 2
by
niños,
shots, including 2
que se
children,
encontraban entre las
who
miles
were
de
among
personas
the
que
thousands of
protestaban en la
people that were
frontera de la
protesting in
Franja
the
de
borders
Gaza.
in Gaza.
Este viernes 28
Gaza
de
Strip
septiembre,
today
dijeron
on a
funcionarios de
Friday
salud
when
de la Franja de Gaza.
where
Funcionarios de salud de Gaza refirieron 6
health,
varones asesinados,
health,
2 de ellos de
people
12
have
y 14 años, y 290
290
heridos por
hurt,
disparos de las tropas israelíes.
hurt by
Están los
the
drones
Israeli troops, and we have the
utilizados
drones,
también
and
en la
6
represión.
murdered in the
Vieron
repression.
cómo lanzaban las bombas de
So
gas.
you can
No
see
es
how they
cualquier
threw
gas.
the gas
Es un gas de tipo
bombs. It's a
militar.
military
Las protestas
gas
han
bombs.
tenido lugar
The
semanalmente
protests
en
have
la
taken
frontera
place
durante los
in
últimos 6
the
meses.
frontiers for
Al
the
menos
past 6 months.
190
At least
palestinos han sido
190
asesinados
Palestinians
desde
have
que
been
comenzaron
murdered
las
since
protestas en Gaza el 30
the
de
protests
marzo
began in March
para
30th
reclamar el
to
derecho sobre
claim
las
their
tierras
right on
perdidas
their
ante
lost
la
lands
expansión israelí en la guerra de su fundación de
facing the Israeli
1948
expansion
y
after
la
the
moderación del
1948
bloqueo
war and
económico
the
israelí-egipcio.
economical blockade Israeli
Como todos los
Egypt.
viernes, las morgues reciben más
Like every
cadáveres.
Friday, morgues are getting fuller.
La sentencia del Tribunal Mundial
Sentence
de
from the
Acceso
World
al Mar de
Tribunal
Bolivia
from
podría obligar a Chile
Bolivia
a
access to
negociar.
sea will could
Santiago de
force
Chile,
Chile to negotiate.
expresidente de Chile Ricardo Lagos,
Ex-presidente Ricardo
Eduardo
Lagos,
Frei, llegando al Palacio
Frei,
Presidencial para reunirse con el presidente actual de
ready
Chile,
to meet
Sebastián Piñera.
to current president
Presidente de Chile, Sebastián Piñera, dice,
Piñera says we cannot defend the legitimate rights of our country, especially now where we can, there's some involvement, especially something so specifically our sovereignty.
Nuevo Palacio Presidencial,
New
banderas
presidential
bolivianas en La
palace,
Paz,
new Bolivian
antiguos
flags
residentes
in
y
La Paz.
cancilleres de Bolivia en reunión,
Some
con el
chancellors from
presidente
Bolivia are
Evo,
in meet with the President Evo.
banderas representativas de la alta cumbre.
Flags from representing the summit.
Evo Morales
Evo
declara,
Morales declares. We're talking about a cause that tests the shared responsibility of two states to agree about fair solutions in the international framework. Bolivia has the best purpose to arrive with Chile in good faith to a solution, of a lasting solution, sustainable, that is mutually satisfactory.
Arica, bandera chilena en el puerto de
This
Arica.
is a Chilean flag in Arica.
Lagos, Frei y Piñera en rueda de prensa.
Frei Piñera in a
Esta
press
eventual
conference, and
salida
important this
para la
eventual
Bolivia, el Estado plurinacional de Bolivia, siempre
port
añorada,
for Bolivia,
nunca lograda.
always longed for but
Ricardo
never
Lagos,
achieved. Lagos,
presidente de Chile.
ex-president from Chile. It's
Lo que tenemos por
what we
delante
have in
a
front of
partir
us
del 1 de octubre
from October
es un
1st
fallo de la Corte.
is a sentence from the
Creo que
court,
todo
and I think
indica
that everything
no habrá
points that
sorpresas,
there won't be any
que la
surprises,
situación de
that the
Chile
situation in
es sólida
Chile is solid,
y en consecuencia
and consequently
el que se nos pida conversar
that we
No es sino
have
ratificar lo que hemos
conversations. It's
hecho
only a
durante
ratification
muchos
we have done through for many years.
Un analista político, Guillermo
Political analyst
Holtzman,
Guillermo Holtzman,
trata de la petición hecha a la
who's
Corte
the
en términos que la Corte
blessing from the
evalúe
court,
si
it said the
corresponde
court
a
has
Chile
to
una
evaluate
obligación
whether
o no
Chile
de
will has
iniciar un proceso de negociación
a
con
process of
Bolivia.
negotiation
La
with
propia
Venezuela.
Corte,
This,
las opciones preliminares
the
presentadas por
preliminary
Chile estableció
presentation
de que,
by
en
Chile
primer lugar,
established
no
that,
está en
first of
juego la
all,
soberanía, no hay
we're not
ninguna
talking about
soberanía que se
sovereignty
puede poder establecer, y en
that can be
segundo lugar,
established, and second of
estableció
all,
de que,
established
al plantearse
that
la negociación, nunca esa
in the
negociación puede ser con un
negotiations could
resultado
never be with a
preestablecido.
pre-established
En consecuencia,
result.
las
Therefore,
implicancias no hay
the
ninguna.
implications, there are none.
el exministro de Relaciones
Ex-Minister
Exteriores
of
de
External Relations,
Ana Bolivia, Javier Murillo de la
Javier
Rocha,
Murillo from Bolivia.
Los países
The
ejercen
countries
soberanía sobre tres planos.
have sovereignty three planes,
el
on
espacio aéreo,
air,
el
land,
plano marítimo.
and sea.
Bolivia solo ejerce
Bolivia has
dos
only
planos.
two planes.
Entonces tenemos
So we
una
have
soberanía mutilada.
a mutilated sovereignty, incomplete
Y esa es una de
sovereignty,
las
and that is one of the
razones de
reasons
fondo por las que
that
se convierte nuestra
it turns
demanda
that our
en una
demand
causa
becomes
indeclinable.
an
Eso,
declinable
para ponerlo
cause.
primero en términos
So this is to
geopolíticos.
talk about geopolitical terms.
un fallo en la Corte Mundial
Sentence in
la
World
semana
Court
próxima sobre
next
la
week
afirmación de
regarding
Bolivia de
the
que Chile ha
affirmation
aludido,
that Chile has.
le ha sacado el cuerpo la obligación de
Has,
discutir el acceso al mar. Podría obligar
has,
a los
has the
vecinos
obligation of
andinos a la mesa
to
de
discuss
negociaciones por una
to discuss it
disputa
with
por la
Bolivia
tierra
through a
ya desde el
dispute
siglo
of land
XIX, prácticamente.
since
La Corte Internacional de
2 centuries
Justicia de La
ago.
Haya, que resuelve las
In La
disputas
Haya,
legales entre los
resolves
Estados
the
miembros de las
sentences
Naciones
between
Unidas,
the states that are
debería
members of
anunciar
the
el
court.
lunes 1 de
Should
octubre
give their sentence and conclusions on Monday. There were, after in 2013, Bolivia called for a sentence for a case against Chile. We are seeing the Democratic objections regarding the elections on Trump's court, of course.
Richard Blumenthal,
Democrat from Connecticut. So before voting, it's our constitutional duty to discover the truth. After listening yesterday to the testimony from Blazeford, we cannot vote in good conscience without an audience. At least we need to have other aspects that we need, other witnesses that we need to listen to. We need to listen to other survivors of sexual assault that have given a very credible story, and this will be also necessary. But today, I move for citing Mark Judge.
I do not recall the events described by Dr.
President
of the Judicial Charles Grassley, Republican, letter from the high school friend from Kavanaugh's high school friend. Kavanaugh and I were friends in high school. We have not spoken directly for several years. I don't remember the described the events by the testimony by Ford in today in the Senate. I never saw Brett act the way that Dr. Ford has described, and I present this letter under oath.
And it is no substitute for testimony before this committee.
Senador Patrick Leahy,
Democrat for Connecticut, Leahy. I vote no because it violates the customs of this committee.
Varios demócratas votando, este es individual. Senador Macy Hirono, demócrata de Hawái, votando, dice no, me opongo fuertemente.
No, I completely reject this.
La respuesta es no.
The answer is no, no, and no.
No.
Senador Cory Booker, demócrata de Nueva Jersey,
Democrat from New Jersey,
shaking
his head. Everybody else in silence.
Bueno, ¿qué hay detrás de esto?
What is behind
Demócratas
this?
enojados
Democrats
se
are
pusieron ante el
angry,
Comité Judicial del Senado
opposed
liderado
that
por
the Judicial
republicanos
Committee
votará más tarde,
with
el
leadership
viernes
by
28 de
Republicans
septiembre, sobre la nominación del
to
candidato
vote
de la Corte Suprema de Estados Unidos,
on later
Brett
date
Kavanaugh,
for
luego de que un
Kavanaugh's
senador clave,
after Jeff Flake gave support to the judge. The Republicans seemed that they had the votes to approve for the panel, but after however, the committee came up discordant and very exciting audiences with sexual allegations against Kavanaugh, and has generated the biggest division in the country with a professor accusing the judge of an inappropriate sexual conduct, and the other denying it. It's a scandal with a very good the committee of all Republicans and 11 Democrats set the vote for 130, but the rejection of Democrats and some leaving the Republican senator, the president of the committee chose Kavanaugh while going ahead with the vote of the committee and maybe to open a final debate and a vote in the Senate in the following days. A lot of poor conscience. Democrats has asked a delay for asking for a FBI investigation, and an American Bar Association has asked for this. Has given support to the nomination. Why are they closing it? Because they're trying to hide something. The United States women protest in the Senate against Kavanaugh's the United States Tribunal. The actress Alyssa Milano declares Joan Baez, legendary Joan Baez sings.
Mujeres marchan al Tribunal Supremo de los
March
Estados Unidos
to the Supreme Tribunal in the United States.
Se tienen que ir.
Kavanaugh yells, they must leave.
Mujeres marchan y cantan ante la Corte Suprema. Muéstrenme
Women
que
march
es una
and sing. Show me
democracia.
that we're talking about
Esto
democracy.
es
This
lo que parece
is
la democracia.
what looks like a
Muéstrenme lo que de
democracy.
verdad
Show
es una
us what is a
democracia.
real democracy.
Sin justicia no hay
Without
paz.
justice,
Canta
there
el pueblo
is
unido
no
jamás
peace.
será dividido.
People
Muchos
that are
eslogans muy
that protest here will
adecuados
remain
al
together.
tema.
Some
Y
many
niños
slogans.
con
Children
carteles,
with
Kavanaugh, no.
Kavanaugh no, saying with
Senadores en el podio,
time we're
ya
saying
veremos.
no.
Kavanaugh tiene que irse. Y
Kavanaugh
tiene que
has
irse
got
ya.
to go and has to go now.
This is what democracy looks like.
Salven a la Corte Suprema, decía.
Save the Supreme Court.
Van a perder toda credibilidad.
They will lose all credibility.
Muestren
Show
que
us
tienen
that you
conciencia.
have conscience.
Someone speaks with such force about it being a sham, and then talking about what his colleagues.
Kamala Harris, demócrata
Her
por
Democrat for
dice,
California
"Alguien
said
habla
someone
con tanta
speaks with
fuerza
such
sobre que
force
es
without
una
about
farsa,
being
y
a
luego
sham
habla de
and
que
talks
sus
about
colegas
her
deben y
colleagues
no deben
must
hacer de
and
manera
must
amenazante como un matón.
like a
No
bully.
nos van a
You
intimidar,
cannot bully
menos con
us
esas
and at least
manipulaciones.
and
El
not
senador
with
Macy
these
Hirono,
manipulations. Hirono,
demócrata de Hawái,
Democrat from Hawaii,
When he accused the Democrats of a vast
se reveló a sí
he
mismo por lo que
accuses the
realmente
Democrats
es cuando
for
acusó a
a
los demócratas de
vast
una gran conspiración de
conspiracy
izquierda.
for the
Vamos a
left.
poner a un
We
teórico de la
will put a
conspiración y creyente en la Corte
conspiracy
Suprema que
theorist
se
in the
supone
Supreme Court
que debe,
that
que
he's
se
supposed
supone
to
que deben
he's
ser
supposed to be
personas
people
objetivas,
that are
que no son
objective,
guiados
that
por
are
los
not
partidos.
guided by
Pero ayer
parties. But
supimos que
yesterday we
estaban
knew
hablando
that they
con
were
una
talking with
persona,
a
el
person,
presidente
the
Trump.
President Trump.
Senador Dick Blumenthal,
Senator-
Connecticut. Ayer vimos un perfil de
Yesterday we
coraje, una
saw
mujer que
a
dará
courageous
inspiración
profile, a woman
y
that is,
corazón a
gives us
millones y millones de
inspiration and heart
personas.
to millions of people.
Estamos diciendo nuestra
We're
verdad
saying,
porque
we're
la
saying
doctora
our truth
Blasey
because
Ford
Blasey
tuvo el
Ford
coraje
had
de
the
decir
courage
su
to
verdad.
tell
No
her
será
truth.
ignorada.
She will
No
not
le
be
negarán sus
ignored.
derechos.
Her
La
rights will
escucharemos.
not be ignored. We will listen
She
to
will
her.
not be denied. She will not be disbelieved. We hear her.
I want you to look around.
Y la actriz Lisa Milano
Actress
pide a los
Lisa Milano.
sobrevivientes de la
Alison Milano
agresión
asks the
sexual que
survivors
levanten
of
sus
sexual aggression
manos
to raise
y
their
miren
hands
alrededor
and look
la
around
muchedumbre.
to
For my
the
pain,
crowd.
because justice was never an option. And for me, speaking
Nunca traté de encontrar
I
justicia
never
para
tried
mi
to
dolor
find
porque la
justice for my
justicia
pain
nunca
because
fue una opción y para
justice
mí
was
hablar
never an
significa
option, and to
revivir
me
uno de
talking
esos
was
peores
to
momentos
live
de
one
toda
of the
mi
worst
vida.
moments in my life.
Significa reconocer
It
que mi
means to
atacante
recognize
está
that
vivo.
my
Así que quiero
attacker is
agradecerle
alive, so
personalmente
I
a la
want to
doctora Ford por ser tan
thank
fuerte y para
Dr.
nuestro
Ford to
país
be so
como
strong and our
patriota.
country as a patriot.
as a patriot.
Y luego la legendaria Joan
And
Baez,
legendary
la
Joan
cantante popular y
Baez.
activa de derechos civiles, cantaba.
Civil rights protector.
No voy a dejar que Kavanaugh
I will
me dé la
not.
vuelta.
I will
No
not
me
let
dará la
Kavanaugh
vuelta.
turn me around. He
No
will
dejaré a
not turn me
Kavanaugh que me
around.
dé la vuelta
I will
y siga
never
caminando.
let Kavanaugh turn me around and stop walking. Voy a seguir. I will keep talking.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, no. Turn me around, no. Turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody.
El pueblo sigue hablando y cantando, quieren
People
construir
are
un nuevo
still
mundo y
talking.
dicen,
They
no
want
voy a dejar que
to build
nadie
a
me
new
dé
world.
vueltas.
Nobody will turn me around.
Veamos el regreso del
See what is
presidente de la
happening with
República
the
Bolivariana de
return of
Venezuela, Nicolás
Nicolás
Maduro, Moros, de su
Maduro
exitosa
to
participación
his
en las Naciones
successful
Unidas.
participation in the United Nations.
Desde
We
Nueva
had
York,
just landed from New York,
desde la sede de la Organización de
from
Naciones
the seat of the
Unidas,
United Nations.
estamos llegando
We
victoriosos
arrived
luego de
successfully
llevar la
after
verdad
after
de
bringing the truth
Venezuela, la voz de la patria al
of
mundo.
Venezuela to the world
En un viaje
in a
importante
very
para la
important
diplomacia bolivariana de
trip
paz.
for the Venezuelan diplomacy, which
contacto
has
con
signified
Las
contact
delegaciones de
with the delegations of
193 países,
193 countries,
bilaterales con la delegación de
bilaterally
los
with the
países
delegations
de
of the
mayor
countries of
poder e
more
importancia
power
del
and
mundo
importance
y
in
de
the
la
world
región
and the
latinoamericana.
Latin American region.
Y además,
And also,
lo digo
I
con
say
sinceridad, con
this with
franqueza
sincerity
y con modestia,
and honesty and modesty,
un discurso que
a speech
impactó
which impacted
profundamente
deeply
en el debate
in the debate,
mundial
the world debate,
por la verdad de Venezuela
for the
y por la
Venezuelan
verdad del
truth
mundo multipolar
and the
que
multipolar
ha
world,
nacido y que nadie
which is
podrá
born
detener.
and cannot be
Venezuela ha
stopped.
llevado su
Venezuela
política,
has brought
su
their
fuerza, su
their
mensaje,
policy, their
su
politics, their
estrategia,
message and
su
strategy,
visión
their
geopolítica,
geopolitical vision,
porque tenemos con el
because we
proyecto
have our
bolivariano fundado
Bolivarian
por el
project
comandante Hugo Chávez,
begun by
tenemos una
Chavez.
visión
We have a
geopolítica que
geopolitical
nunca,
vision
jamás
which will never
antes en Venezuela se
never
había
before
tenido.
Venezuela was present in
Venezuela, la
Venezuela.
política
the
internacional,
international
cuando la
presence
oligarquía
when
gobernó,
all the oligarchy was ruling,
estaba subordinada a lo
it
que
was
dijeran en
subordinated to
Washington.
what Washington said.
No se pensaba ni se actuaba de
They didn't
acuerdo
think or acted
a intereses nacionales
according
o
to
un
international
pensamiento propio.
interests or their own
Es con la
thoughts.
llegada del
It is
comandante
only
Chávez
with the
que
arrival of
Venezuela empieza a
Chavez
tener un pensamiento
that we have
propio
our own thought,
en la visión
independent thought, in the
geopolítica
geopolitical
del
vision
mundo.
of the world,
una diplomacia
a
propia
our own
y
diplomacy,
una voz
and
fuerte,
our
respetada,
strong
muy
voice,
respetada.
respected voice.
Y eso es muy importante
And that is very important
para el mundo en que estamos
for the
viviendo
world that we're living in,
y para el mundo que
and
van a vivir
for the
nuestros
world
hijos,
that our
nuestras
children will
hijas,
inhabit,
nuestros nietos, nuestras
our
nietas, para el
grandchildren,
mundo que van a vivir
the
ustedes,
world that
jóvenes
you
militares
young
de la
people
patria.
will live in.
El mundo que ustedes van a
The
ver
world that
es
you
un
will
mundo
see is a different
distinto,
world,
y
and
hoy
today
lo estamos construyendo.
we are
Hoy lo
building it.
estamos
Today
gestando con la palabra,
we're creating
con la
it
acción,
through our world,
con la
through our word,
valentía,
action,
con el
our
coraje
and
que
courage
tiene Venezuela.
that Venezuela has,
Sí, que tiene nuestra patria.
that our country has.
Coraje gigantesco.
Huge amount of
País que
courage.
tiene
A country
la valentía de decir
that
las
has the
verdades
courage
que
to say the
otros
truth,
callan.
the truth that others keep
Los
quiet.
gobiernos satélites
Such
del
like governments
imperialismo
from the
norteamericano
North American imperialism
quedaron haciendo cuicui.
were left with their
Quedaron en la
mouths
lona,
open.
knockout.
They
Todos
were,
los gobiernos
they were left
satélites
knocked
del
out. All the
imperialismo,
satellite
todos los
governments
gobiernos
from
de la derecha
imperialism,
quedaron
all the governments from the
knockout.
right were knocked out. KO.
Knockout.
KO. KO.
Lo único que ellos tienen es repetir el
The
guión
only,
del imperio.
the only thing they do is repeat
Es
the
lo
script
único que
given
ellos
by the
tienen.
empire. That's the only thing.
Es lo único
That's
que
all they
ellos
do.
tienen.
That's all they have.
Gobiernos satélites de la
Satellite
oligarquía.
governments, the
Gobiernos
oligarchy,
satélites de la
satellite
derecha,
governments,
que no
satellite governments
representan la
from
dignidad
the
de
right.
los pueblos
They do not represent the
latinoamericanos
dignity of the Latin American
que ellos
peoples.
gobiernan. No la
They do not
representan,
represent the people they govern,
ni la historia de
nor
nuestro
their
pueblo.
history.
Así que hemos dado una
So
jornada
we have
importante, muy
we
importante.
have given a very important
Así como
participation.
Venezuela tiene la
Just
valentía,
like
la
Venezuela
firmeza
has
de decir las grandes
the
verdades
firmness
de este mundo,
of
de
speaking their
denunciar las
truth,
guerras,
to
la
denounce
injusticia,
wars
la
and
opresión.
injustices and
Así como
oppression,
Venezuela tiene
just
la
like
entereza,
Venezuela has
el coraje
the
para
dignity and the
denunciar los
courage to
crímenes del
denounce
imperialismo.
the crimes
También nosotros
from
tenemos
imperialism. We
la
also have the
capacidad del
capacity
diálogo,
to
de la
dialogue
diplomacia.
and
También la
diplomacy.
tenemos.
We also
Y
have that.
tendemos la mano a quien nos
And
la
we
tiende,
give the hands, our
Y
hands to
hablamos
whoever gives it to us.
con quien nos habla.
And we talk to
Por ahí
whoever
se dio un
talks to
debate
us. There was a
En
debate
estas 48
in these
horas, el
48 hours
miércoles,
on
el jueves y
Wednesday,
hoy,
Thursday, and today.
si nos íbamos a reunir el
If we were
presidente
going to
Trump
meet Trump
y yo.
and I.
Yo ayer dije lo que tenía
Yesterday
que decir.
I said what I had to say.
Si algún día
If
hubieran condiciones
someday there were the necessary
para una
conditions
reunión
for a
entre el
meeting
presidente Donald
between
Trump
President Donald
y mi
Trump
persona,
and
Nicolás
myself,
Maduro
Nicolás
Moro,
Maduro
yo
Moro,
estaría
I
listo
would
para
be
reunirme
ready to
donde
meet
sea,
wherever,
cuando sea, tender mi
whenever,
mano,
to
hablar,
outstretch my
verlo
hand, see
face to face,
face to face, look him in the eyes. And I know that if this were to take place, many things would change. It would be very positive. This gesture and the possibility would be very positive of this. The possibility of this meeting is very positive. I was flying that the President of the United States mentioned me again. My answer is the same. I have the courage and the decision to meet with President Trump, greet him respectfully, and establish a dialogue, of a high-level dialogue. I have it. I have the courage. If this opportunity should present itself, I would not let it go, because I believe in diplomacy, and the importance of the world, diplomacy of peace, and whatever I do is for the benefit of the people, for the prosperity and the future of our country. Everything I do is with goodwill. So we must continue on, continue forward. I believe that this has been important days in New York. We received the greetings from many people. We were part of an act in a Harlem church with more than 2,500 leaders of all communities in New York. It was a very important act that the Chancellor participated with the leaders from the left and the popular movements from the United States. All showing solidarity with the Bolivarian revolution and supporting the revolution. Yesterday evening we went for a walk late. Autumn is arriving. And New York is cloudy. We walked for 46 blocks. We greeted an Ecuadorian that gave me a hug, a Venezuelan woman from Venezuela that spotted us. I greeted a Dominican, a Puerto Rican, a group of young people from the United States just walking down the street. 46 blocks. We walked through Central Park. We were in Central Park. And we walked through Fifth Avenue. And afterwards, we returned through Madison Avenue, free to walk the streets. A young person came up to me and asked, "What do you think about it? What do you think about New York?" So I think it's very pretty. I come from a concert in Central Park, he said, from an African group. And I said, so if I had known, I would have gone to the concert. All of these at night, late at night, after the meetings with the General Secretary for the Organizations of United Nations, Secretary General Gutierrez. We had a meeting, 40-minute meeting, very productive meeting, very necessary, very positive. And afterwards we went for a walk through New York, as I always do, in order to feel the city, and also to yesterday showing the support. I just put on my cap, my jacket, and it's not easy to find me, but people find me, and what you get is understanding, affection, and warmth. So to the city of New York and the social movements and religious movements and cultural movements from Caracas here in our country, I give you thanks for all your support and your support. The revolution has a lot of support coming from the United States. We have a lot of support in the basis of the citizens and communities in the United States. And I said to the Chancellor Ariasa and Minister Rodriguez, we need to strengthen the relations between sorority and fraternity, and cooperation with the people of the United States, social movements and the leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, and union leaders. We need to strengthen the relations. We need to strengthen and nurture the relations and to bet on the future, a common future, a future of respect and understanding. So here we are. We went, we conquered, we came back, and we continue. I was there, and then I returned safely and successfully. Greeting to all Venezuela. We're here, we're back to continue working. God bless our country. God bless the future of peace in Venezuela until our victory.
Bueno, se fue el retorno y
that was
hay mucho testimonial ahí.
Lots
Caminar
of
por esas calles.
Walking down those streets, we need to remember
la generosidad
the generosity
comandante presidente Chávez cuando
from
donó
Commander Chavez when he
para calefacción
gave fuel to those poor neighborhoods in New York.
En este clima
in this wonderful weather,
incluso en los climas templados,
even with the temperate climates in the south, we do not understand not having enough money to pay for heating, and this is a need, not a luxury. We do not understand what it means in the morning to wash your face in frozen water with the pipes, because we have our blankets in bed and everything, but we do not understand that afterwards you need to go to the toilet, and if you lift the lid and it's frozen, that means not having enough money for heating. And Chavez, since then, gave a solidarity amount to the people in his government that does not think about these everyday subjects, issues, and having this very warm greeting from the Latin people in the New York, and it has to do with this solidarity event coming from Chavez, and especially for the Afro-Americans, and which is had to wake up in the freezing morning. And it's no joke. One thing is Arizona, where, of course, our pilots left. Our pilots did very well within the red flag operations, and I was a witness of that for reasons I will not go into tonight. But another thing is to be in New York and to wake up and not to have water to brush your teeth, to go pee, and the toilet is frozen. So this is we do not understand here in Latin America and in our weather, in our climate. Of course, Hollywood shows us but from Studio 3 in this pioneer channel in Venezuela, so coming from TV5 where we began, and very proudly. We finished Dossier here in the western side with the international information. This is Walter Martinez, producer and conductor of the program. And greetings to the staff of the president upon their return. So how was it left? Everything was left well.
Assalamu alaikum, Pax Bovis. Disponga usted de las cámaras, señor director.
So please turn up the cameras.